this is one of two 25-gallon fuel tanks that the motorhome came with. I have room for both of them. I'm just going to use one for now. They're both identical except for this fitting, and I don't know why. The book doesn't actually call out what this fitting does. There's a supply and a vent, and I think this is for a charcoal canister. Went through a little valve that kept liquid fuel from coming out. And go to the canister that was up there. But this one, I don't know. I don't know what that is. I'll do a little bit more homework. The way this was designed to work, you've got this front bracket, and there's holes already in that cross member. There was another cross member that bolted back here, and that isn't there. So I'll have to come up with some way to simulate, because that cross member is in a different place. Anyways, I'll come up with a way to get this back one going as the first step. But for now, I'm just going to block it in there and see what I need to do where that needs to be. There's a bracket down over here. That bolts into the frame, that cross member. Well, it gave me the opportunity when reversing this cross member back to front to move this bracket. Now on both sides, over there too. You can see I drilled holes in the frame. Didn't need to be there because this bracket was always meant to bolt here. The reason I put the cross member here was all four of these holes were already there in both frame members. So there are two fuel tanks from the motorhome. They both have the suction and vent. This fitting here is for the charcoal canister, but I didn't know what this one was for. Well, it turns out this is the rear tank, because that fitting fed the generator that was right adjacent to that corner. And before I go any further, I've got the other tank out. This is the front tank, the original front tank. There's the fitting for the charcoal canister. And anyways, I figured why not take this cap off of here and see if there's any corrosion inside these tanks. I don't think so, but I'm going to take a look. And then I'll choose which tank to use based on that. Okay, I've compared these two tanks. The other one looks original. This one looks new because it's still got, it's bright looking. The other thing is, the other one had the ring all the way, these tabs, 3 of them, were tied up against these tabs here, which are welded to the tank. And this ring looks like it moves around and that locks it in. 3 ramps, makes sense. There's a tab here, it's locked into a side of the tank, and one over here too. I guess that keeps this from rotating, the sender and the pickup tube. So let's see how hard it is to get this undone. It's not done up all the way, and this I can see here, this is a locking. This is a raised bump. And on the ring that moves, there's a raised bump. That is meant to be pushed all the way around so that locks, and it's not. So this has been replaced and they didn't do it correctly. Let's see how well I do taking it out. It doesn't take much to move it. It moves easy. There we go. Ring is off. That's loose. Okay. The float. Pickup tube. Got a sock on it. How do you get it out of there? Oh, okay. Sock is kind of flexible. And there's your float for the transmitter. Your sock looks good. So there's in there. Let's see how clean and shiny it is. That's fuel. There's no real rust that I can see. There's some. It's not horrible. Just surface rust looks like. Yeah, I think it's going to be okay. I'll do a better inspection. Go from there. I found some flakes of something floating around in the fuel tank. I don't think it's rust, but I'm gonna spill it into a catch pan and try to get most of that out anyway. I don't think it's gonna cause a problem. They're big. The screen that's in there will probably keep it from being any problem. I got the opportunity, I'll clean it out a little bit. The other thing I want to do is test the transmitter here, ohm meter, put between those two terminals, and make sure everything's working right. That looks like 140, it's moving around a lot. 130, 140 to 1. Well, it's a pretty big span. I'll also have to look online to see if that's what this is supposed to read. So that's working. Whether or not it's accurate, I don't know, but it's working. The other problem with this tank was on the bottom. When I took this out of the motorhome, the bung plug down here was broken off. I couldn't get it out. So if I can't fix that, I just got a temporary plug in it now that won't work. I'm going to try to get that fixed now. If I can fix it, then I'll use the front one. This is just a short little tiny bung plug with an Allen head. Used to have an Allen head. At least this extractor won't twist off. Not as easy. Man, that thing is in there. It's like they welded it in or something, but they couldn't have. Nothing I tried could get that out. And I didn't really want to mess this up too badly. What I've done is I've drilled it out to 5/16, which is the proper size for a 3/8/16 plug. And found myself a little copper washer. And that will have to do. I might use some sealant as well, some fuel-proof sealant in there. I don't know if this is flat, but that's a flange bolt. Got a nice mating surface there, nice copper washer. Seal that up and that'll be good, at least for now. And I'm using this Forma gasket from Permatex. Top and bottom of the gasket, tighten it up. That should do. If not, I can redo it later. But at least I haven't messed it up to the point where I can't fix it. Well, I've got it nice and clean. I'm going to use some anti-seize on it and see if I can make it just work a little bit smoother. Alright, I think we're good. That's got a bolt stuck in it actually. I have to clean that bracket up so I can chase all the threads. So I will get that done and then I'll continue with this. I put the rest of that fuel in this bucket and man, it had probably a pint of water. I got a new microphone. This is a Rode, a wireless Me. Anyways, made in Australia. That's pretty neat. Hopefully the sound quality is better than the last video. I found this in my scrap heap outside. One of the, I've got two more cross members. The other one was purpose built for a certain spot on the motorhome. I'm not sure it'll fit. This one is more or less identical to the one forward there. And the way the tanks went in is there's a series of 3 of these and the tanks mounted between them. And I can see right now, all that work I did on my brake line is going to have to change. This is going to go right through it. You know, I might change it anyway simply because the exhaust pipe's got to run here. And I don't want this brake line near it. I'll probably go forward behind the motor and come back on this side. It's an easy change. Anyways, this tank is nice and level right now, the way it's sitting. Clean this up, drill holes, bolt it in place. And there's some straps that it bolts to in these elongated holes here and here. And I even found the original little L-bolts, the elbow bolts, whatever they are, that these tanks were bolted with. I can see some witness marks here of how this came up underneath this edge. There's no witness marks on this, frame though, so this must have been the forward. The one that was furthest forward, and it would have had the front bracket on the front tank mounted here. I've got the holes all drilled, went pretty easy. 3 of the bolts are in, the 4th bolt lines up right with this shock absorber. And it's one of those shock absorbers that, it's a gas filled. So it has some pressure on it, and I can't just easily undo the thing. So what I have to do is compress the shock absorber a little bit. Okay, that shock is loose. Should just be able to pull that bolt out. And if I grab a bolt that I found, this is from the fire truck. I had some grade 8 bolts. That's in. Go ahead and put this bolt back in so the clamp doesn't come off and make a problem. Okay, that's on. And we'll tighten it up here in a minute. Get rid of this clamp. Now I can go ahead and put all the nuts on the cross member, tighten everything up, mount the tank. Boy, these things are awful fussy how they go on. It has to be done in stages. Okay, now I should be able to swing the front in, put those bolts in, and then finish bolting these up using the washers and the spacers. Pull the chair out from under there and bolt everything up. This is the original fuel line that came out of the motorhome. This is the 1 1/8 neck, as is this. And this is a 1 3/8, really weird sizes. What you can't see too well is up here, there's a little bracket that's made to hold it. And happily, I saved this bracket and the screws. I'm going to mount that right here, because there's holes for it and everything. This is where the fuel filler went up into the cab of the motorhome. I have to put the cab of the fire truck on to fit that. I've got there's a vent line that goes along as well to here. And I have up here the original vent line, so I'll modify that to work. So after that, I'll have the vent, I'll have the filler hose. Then I also need the fuel supply to the carburetor. And I don't know, I can't remember how that went. Anyways, it's got to come out of here and then go to somewhere in this area will be an electric fuel pump. So we'll get that fuel pump mounted, then I know what kind of line to use all the way up to the motor. Well, I did it to myself. I wanted to move the brake line, the rear brake line, from along this rail because the exhaust pipe was going to be here. And so I went ahead and reversed this pipe. And then I decided, what the heck, why not just run the pipe all the way forward from here? Makes more sense. I've braced it everywhere I need to. Vibration shouldn't be an issue. It's tucked out behind where the filler pipe's going to be. And yeah, then it just goes forward around to the divider valve. Here's the fuel filler pipe. I think this is going to be a lot easier than I could have hoped. I'm going to drill a hole here, and I'll have to figure out how to shorten this a little bit so that it's down below here. And I don't have to use this piece, if I can get it out of here again. I don't have to use that at all. There's that little fitting that I need to attach to the tank. That's going to line up perfectly. I've got some damage here, but that's okay, because I think this piece is long enough. Put that off to the edge even. That is going to work really well. So here's my problem. I have a plan about how to join up all these bits of pipe. This is all things from the motorhome. The fuel filler was up by the driver's window, and all the way back here there was a tank here, the tank behind it, and that explains this piece of pipe. It had two of these fittings that joined up the two tanks to this one filler hose, and then it had a vent line. This is a vent line. It goes to the fuel filler neck here, this vent line. This will be right below it for filling up the fuel tank, but it's too long. I need to make it shorter by a little bit. I don't want fuel trapped in this. I want this to be above and it flows into the tank. And then still, how do I get fuel out of this into the tank? I did find a fuel filler elbow made of a fuel hose, and it's an elbow, it's a 90 degree for 1 1/8". I found that, and I've got that on the way. Should be here tomorrow. I was just going to use a short section of it. This is only about 3 inches. That's all I needed. The hose is quite long. So I went into town, a local refrigeration store, and he had everything. He had 1 3/8 OD, or sorry, 1 3/8 ID for this. All this pipe here fits on just fine. I can sweat that together. There's, instead of an end cap coming off of this that I'd ordered, I'm going to cut it back here. And this is a short bit of copper pipe that he had. And I can come out, the hose will come off of this, off the end, do my elbow straight into there. That's a good fit. I felt pretty confident that I could use just a propane torch and sweat this on here using solder. Done that before. But this is much more significant. This is all steel. You can see that, well, you can't see, but I did a little scrape here, and this is all these fittings are brazed together. That's brazed on there. This is all sweated on brazing. This has been sweated on brazing. The tubing's been joined together here and here to make it strong. So, brazing. So what he gave me was this MAP gas, which I'd heard of it. This is slightly better than propane, but it is not oxyacetylene. For me to go to that step up, an oxyacetylene torch, significant cost. It's not just the torch, you need the hoses, you need the regulators, you need the tanks and all that stuff. Just for a couple of fittings, I just couldn't make that happen. This may not work. As far as me sweating all this stuff together, this still may not be hot enough. But I'll try it, and then, well, I always have that as a backup to go somewhere and to have some machine shop put all this together for me. Anyways, I'll try it now using this. Give that a bit of a clean with some emery. I have some C-flux, which is made for joining copper tubing. Just a bit of acid on here. I think it's acid, I'm not sure. Anyway, flux helps make the join. Oh, Jim, it's hot. And that sucked it right up all the way around. It's all the way through. I can see it on the inside. I might actually try to do the other part where I do the galvanized pipe inside. Anyways, I've prepped this. This is still pretty hot, so I've been sanding the inside of this. I think that's going to work.
I really don't know if this is being recorded correctly or not. The little display on the back of my camera is broken. I can't tell if the voice is working or anything. I think I've got it pointed in the right direction. Might have to record all of this over again. What I've done so far is I've made this solder joint, and it worked quite well. I changed the piece of pipe that I'm using because of the things that I found in town. I can use a longer length of pipe, And the actual stem, instead of having it angle like it was all one longer piece. And I just decided to go straight up and straight into this. And it's going to be around here, is where I'm going to put it. Now this is, to get my hand in here comfortably, if I'm going to cut a hole here, the cap is around 3 inches diameter, 3.5. I needed at least a 5-inch hole to get my hand in there and get the cap out. I can't fix this to the step. So this whole, because this cab, it's going to move around some. And this is going to be fixed to the frame. So it's all going to be kept separate. But I still need to get my hand in there and take the cap off. I'll end up fixing this to the frame, make a bracket here and just hold it in place. Anyways, it's in a close enough position where I can figure out where this hole's got to be cut. It's about here. And to do that, I've got this giant 5-inch hole saw. And that should be just big enough. I found this cabinetry hinge. It's a hidden hinge. So it'll allow me to open and shut that. It's brass, it's really heavy duty. It actually came from the motorhome. It was a fold-up table. That will work nicely for a hidden hinge. Up underneath here, it'll just fold up. That'll work nice. So that's in play. Get rid of this. So I've got to just make sure I get the hole in the right spot. I can adjust this a little bit. I don't want to have it too far to the frame because I don't want to pinch my brake line. I don't want to have it too far out. It's actually hitting down here on this cross member where that holds the suspension, the springs. So that's got to be clear. I can do that later though. I can just change the length of this pipe to make sure it doesn't do that. So the next thing is cut a hole. Alrighty then. It's 2 pieces here. I got to draw a line. Cut this about here. And this is scrap. Cut that out. And then a couple of holes, mounting holes. Here and here. And that'll fit right in there. This will go up underneath the step over there. And the other side will go under here, like such. About something like that. Up underneath. Okay. Well, I think that came out pretty nice. Got a plate right here so that it can rest on something other than just a hinge. And it didn't quite get it centered, but it's close enough. So I can bring my fuel cap in up underneath there now. Since I'm deleting the fuel pump, I opted to take a piece of scrap iron and just make a cover. And there is my fuel pump delete. The vent line is in, so far so good. I've also connected up the tank, fuel tank filler, looking good. And trying to find some fuel fittings. I'm inside the truck cab. I've got a switch here and a pressure gauge. I might use those later, but for now, we've got fittings I can use for the fuel pump. Here's all the copper lines that I pulled out of the fire truck. It's a mixture, but there certainly is a lot of 1/4-inch nominal tubing here. Fuel line forming dies work pretty good on this, at least on copper. Making progress. Got the fuel
fuel line, goes underneath, goes over here to the fuel pump. And this is another piece from the fire truck. And I'll wrap that around inside the frame and go up into that hole up in there. Final piece of the fuel line. Got a nice big filter. I've repurposed, well, it's not repurposed. This hose was always here and it went into a filter. Now I've taken the filter elements out of that. It's just an empty pipe because it was full of a white crust. I don't know what that would have done. I vacuumed out the crust so it didn't get into the carburetor any worse than it was. But this is actually a braided stainless steel pipe. Pretty fancy. It must be aftermarket. It's a big insulator. I found this bracket, something from the fire truck. And that holds that. Just normal fittings. I've got it strapped in there so it doesn't move around. And the last thing was then putting on this little plug. Rather than buy something, I made something. That'll wrap this episode, but the next part is going to be cooling system. That's mounting the radiator and the transmission cooler. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe, and I'll see you next time.